It's time for Cleared to Play, where we take you inside the tent and get you updated on the latest injuries in the Bay. Proud to partner with UCSF Health on this segment, and we bring in Associate Professor of Orthopedic Surgery, Dr. Nirav Pandya. Doc, how are you? And man, a lot going on here with Bay Area injuries. Let's start first with Talanoa Hufanga. What did you make of not only the injury, but his prognosis to return after the torn ACL?
Yeah, whenever you see a player kind of buckle non-contact injury, that's the number one thing you worry about. When you saw the play and kind of see the collapse afterwards, you're worried about an ACL, which was unfortunately confirmed, based on the MRI reports that the 49ers reported. I think one of the positive things was I think Kyle Shanahan said that it was a quote-unquote clean MRI except for the ACL tear, and that's the best prognostic factor for him besides his age. A lot of time when NFL players have these ACL injuries, it's actually what the meniscus and the cartilage looks like. It sometimes leads to that swelling, that pain, those problems that happen when NFL players come back. So the fact he's young, a clean ACL tear does mean that hopefully, if everything goes as planned, he should be back in that kind of 9 to 12 month time frame where most NFL players end up, which bodes well for him being back at the beginning of the next season, which is hopefully what will happen for him and the 49ers.
Yeah, Doc, I was just going to follow up on the timeline now for an ACL like that is clean and how maybe it varies between NBA and NFL because it's so tough. You start looking 9 to 12 in an NFL calendar, and that can put you in a position where maybe you're missing or not what you used to be for 2 years. It can basically wreck kind of 2 years, but you think Hufanga has the potential to maybe avoid that if everything goes well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think where a lot of that variability comes in is that the way you kind of rehab after an ACL surgery, if you don't have to do anything with the meniscus or cartilage, those first 6 to 8 weeks, you can be much more aggressive in your rehab. And for an NFL player who's getting that daily rehab, that sets you up to be really ready to perform at 9 to 10 months as opposed to, let's say you tore your meniscus, you're really kind of limited those first 6 to 8 weeks, and that can impact you on the back end as well as lead to more irritation on the back end as well, too. We obviously saw what happens when you tear your meniscus with James Wiseman here with the Warriors. So eliminating that meniscus part of it does mean that potentially, 9, 10 months, that means you're in training camp, you're playing for that game, as opposed to 3 months later, which suddenly means it's week 7, week 8, and then they're like, look, we're just not going to have you back for the season because it's already halfway through. So things do look in his favor based on what they were saying.
Other Niner injuries that we're focused on, Aaron Banks continues to be out with a toe injury. What do you think that his prognosis is in terms of being able to come back and play at guard with a turf toe injury?
I think it is pretty positive. I think he was listed as limited, for this week. I think it's a lot harder for cornerbacks and wide receivers to have a turf toe injury because you're essentially planting, you're changing directions, you're cutting a lot more. For a guard, it can be a little bit easier. There are taping mechanisms and different things and braces you can put to kind of help stabilize the toe because what essentially is happening with the turf toe is the ligaments and muscles in that area have been damaged and that toe is unstable. So if you can give some external stability and you're playing a position like guard where you're not rapidly changing direction, there is a possibility you could potentially come back this week or the week after that. If he was a wide receiver, cornerback, running back, I'd be a lot more concerned of this being more of a 6 to 7 week issue. But it sounds like he's trending in the right direction, and at the position he luckily plays, this hopefully shouldn't impact him as the season moves forward.
Moving on and switching gears a little bit, getting into the Warriors. What did you make of Gary Payton II's injury from a couple of games ago? He looked like he rolled his ankle, and came down on the foot of an opposing player. But then he played for 2.5 minutes. He was visibly limping. I think at one point motioned for a sub, but he was also kind of playing through it. And then it winds up being more of a foot injury than actually an ankle injury. I've rolled my ankle a million times, Doc. Sometimes you get that foot over, it kind of bangs up against the floor. Like what's going on there where something that looks like an ankle roll turns into a foot?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much classically where you see that happen is when a player will land on another player and then twist their ankle. What ends up happening is that rather than all the force kind of going through the ankle ligaments, it ends up going through the foot, and you get a muscle issue, a ligament issue in the foot, or what you hopefully are avoiding is that bone, that fifth metatarsal break, that dreaded fracture that players like Durant have had in the past. You don't want that to happen because it just torques on that foot and force gets transmitted in kind of a weird way. So luckily it was a muscle issue, which makes sense. Given the fact that he tried to play, he probably was trying to work it out a little bit, and it was quote unquote more of a foot as opposed to an ankle. That does bode well for him returning a little bit more quickly. But for a player like Peyton, I think the thing that's really important is that unlike say like an NFL player or, a baseball player, the foot takes a lot of stress for NBA players, particularly for someone as explosive as GP2. So if there is any residual soreness and there's any kind of concern that, look, this is impacting how he's played, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a minutes restriction, they're playing him a little bit less, because those foot things can become chronic very, very quickly. So better to err on the side of being safe as opposed to kind of pushing them out there and then you have something that lasts for a couple weeks.
Any concerns, Doc, having watched Steph Curry now come back for a couple of games, other than watching him just collapse to the floor last night in something that turned out to not be much of anything, but watching Steph Curry play coming off the MCL sprain, are you seeing anything that is troubling at all?
Not at all, and I think they've actually, one of the best signs, number one, he looks good when he's out there playing. Number two, the Warriors have been extremely cautious, with his knees in the past and all his injuries. So the fact it kind of went from knee sprain to he's day-to-day to he's playing for an organization that is very cautious and rightfully so with injuries is very positive. He looked good out there. Obviously, the thing that's hard to know is, is he concerned about engaging in contact or maybe taking that extra hard cut? And it didn't really seem that way. So I think any concerns about his knee or any residual issues lingering over the next couple of games seem to be put to rest. And hopefully it's a nice, healthy stretch for him moving forward.
Doc, big eating day for some of us on Thursday. Any sort of stretching or pre-musculature activities that I can do to allow my stomach to be ready for the burden that it's going to receive?
I think, a good 5-minute set of planks beforehand, get those abdominal muscles ready to stretch out, and then a little bit of gentle cool down afterwards, Dan. You got to be gentle to those core muscles so they could relax and expand out when you get the turkey coming your way.
This Doc Pandya, you try to catch him off guard, but you just can't. You got anything specially planned for Thursday, Doc, for you and yours?
No, we're just, we're getting together with some families, watching some football, just some good quality family time, and hopefully no injuries spoil Thanksgiving, whether it's on TV or in the backyard during the football game.
Yeah, no doubt. And all of us are sending you and yours, especially your wife, our deepest love and thought. And you're always in our thoughts, Doc, and we appreciate all you do for us.
No, I appreciate it. And both you and John have a great Thanksgiving as well, too.
Thank you. That's
Thanks,
Dr. Nirav Pandya. The preceding was sponsored by UCSF Health. And JD, you and I come across a lot of different people in our business and doing what we do. And you meet a guy like that, somebody who has obviously become a partner of ours here over the last 2-3 years on the station, but he's a real one. He's a P1 listener. He's a diehard fan. And he's the kind of guy that if you have a question, and I've actually hit him up privately on the text machine, just, man to man, asking him questions, and he'll get back to you and give you, his honest, good medical advice and opinion.